What's up, guys? How's it going? Welcome back to Atlas Theory. Hope you guys are having a great year so far. Today we have our first news article on this channel for the year. If you guys don't know, we have started a Theory Craft series that comes out every Thursday at 8 p.m. UTC, so make sure to tune in for those. But today, Star Atlas released two new documents very related to each other, all about faction-specific companies or faction-aligned companies. Now, as we know, every ship that has been released has a company name and then model. So this kind of goes into that, how that's going to look like in-game, how that's going to work with the economy, and also it gives us a little hint as to the rarity markers on those ships. Jumping over to the first article here, this one is a Medium article written by Star Atlas. Both of these documents that we're going over today are in the description, so go ahead and click those and follow along with us. Star Atlas feature reveal faction-aligned companies gives us a brief intro here. The blockchain metaverse built on Solana unveils further details on factions and gameplay mechanics, including a key framework for the intergalactic economy. And then as we scroll down here, it kind of furthers the introduction here with Score and then the Unreal Engine 5 showroom. And then as we jump into it here, it's just a few paragraphs of intro. Newly released faction-aligned companies document deepens a player's understanding of the galactic economy even further, outlining 3 main factions and 4 minor ones. This is really cool. Revealing faction-specific advantages and disadvantage. So it kind of goes in here. If you speculated off of the information that was already presented when you chose your factions, such as the materials available, that's where I built my theory off of the rarity of ships. You know, some materials are over in this sector, some are over here, and you know, you're going to need to travel or trade, and that kind of difficulty builds the rarity of the ship. And that's kind of like how it ends up playing out in this article here, but we'll get more into that here with the blueprints. So let's read the next sentence here. More so continuing the sentence, elaborating the importance of factional reputation is key relationship to spacecraft manufacturers. And finally, the ability to create own ships based on acquired blueprints. So we know every ship that's been released and will be can also be made in-game by us, but we have to acquire these blueprints, which, you know, is that difficulty level there. The faction-aligned companies document, which we'll get into next, further showcases specific features of space manufacturer alignments with different factions, the economic role of different risk zones, their inhabitants and resources, and loyalty mechanics for obtaining manufacturer blueprints for ships. So we're going to kind of just jump to this next document here. You guys can go ahead and finish this off, but really it's just setting the stage for the second document. So here we are, number 2, faction-aligned companies. You see here, it's by Danny Floyd, released publicly now. Here's the overview that we kind of went into, but it's good, like understanding the lore and how it's evolved, especially, you know, if you've gone through the meta posters, you have a good understanding of this. But many of us weren't like around during that era. Side note, if you do want to go revisit that, I have a whole series and playlist where I check out the lore and experiences of each meta poster. But jumping back, there are 3 primary Council of Peace factions and 3 minor factions in Star Atlas. The safe and medium risk zones are dominated by Mud, Oni, and Ushtur COP factions. So these are the factions that we get to choose when we start the game here. Leave your faction down below. Which one did you choose? I'm more driven towards Ushtur, but because of my guild and deck, we went Mud. So that's going to be fun to explore as well. Gaining access to manufacturer blueprints requires accumulated manufacturer loyalty. This will function like a reputation system. The one loyalty one garners within a manufacturer, the more blueprints they will have access to. So here in this first section, guys, we get into council faction alignments. So let's just go through these main ones, like we just said, Mud, Oni, and Ushtar. Let's find out which companies are aligned with those and kind of how we get the blueprints for each one. So A, access to proprietary ship manufacturers' blueprints is restricted to a single faction. However, faction passes will allow for other factions to accumulate loyalty and unlock blueprints. B, resources used in proprietary blueprints are in higher abundance within the aligned faction region. Like we said earlier, yeah, we've already seen the list of which materials or resources are in each area. C, the proprietary manufacturers are Pierce, Busan, and Visas. D, owning and trading proprietary ships across factions is unrestricted, but is still subject to transportation and transaction fees. This is kind of stuff that we've kind of known, or at least had hints to, in the white paper and in the second paper. Now, number 2 here, each COP faction has 2 dual faction manufacturers. So this is going to be cool. This is interesting. This is where it kind of like mixes, and there's rarity involved, and you get to like hone in what you want to play as, the ships you want to build and collect even further. So this is exciting stuff, guys. We've, I think, all been kind of waiting for this. Like, what exactly is Calico? What exactly is Rainbow? And we gotta go into those. So let's read through them. I hope you're following along at home. A, access to a dual faction ship manufacturer's blueprints is restricted to 2 factions. The manufacturer will have a major and minor alignment. Players in the major faction will accumulate loyalty at a faster rate than those in the minor faction. Faction passes will allow the third faction to accumulate loyalty and unlock blueprints. So this is kind of goes through it similar to number 1. Dual faction manufacturers are Agrica, Opal, and Calico. So you can read through these examples here, but let's jump into this next section, because this is where some of it gets exciting. There's some cool stuff going on here, even related to other MMORPGs, but we'll get into it. So getting into it here, other faction alignments. The medium risk and high risk zones house minor factions who boast their own proprietary ship lines. Aligning with a minor faction does not influence a player's existing COP faction alignments. So we got the Jorvik, or the BYOS, as we've seen some of those ships, a faction of outlaws and pirates plaguing the medium and high risk zones. Shout out to Skull and Bones. We had an interview with them yesterday. Check it out. Talking all about pirates in Star Atlas. You guys read through A, B's, and C's. We're going to hit the major points here. Ecos, a faction of radicals who terraform via bombing in the medium and high risk zones. We've seen that, like the Ecos, Bomberella, I believe, is one example of their ship. We have Tufa, a faction of metagenetic creatures, Scourge of the Cataclysm. I need to look deeper into the Tufa, because so far, number 4, the Fatoli, have been kind of my favorite, but we'll get into that. An ancient race of light-based creatures and source of extremely advanced technology. Now, I will go into this little tip here just because the rainbow ships are my favorite. And we do know from the description of, I believe, the Ohm, that the rainbow Ohm is accumulation or mixture of Fatoli technology and human planning. So that's really, really cool. Access to more advanced rainbow blueprints requires increased Fatoli loyalty. To increase Fatoli loyalty, a player can be aligned with any faction, but must complete Fatoli missions. Okay, so right there, it sparks Skyrim vibes for me, because the Fatoli, who have access to these like rare materials and these blueprints, is similar to the Daedric princes, spread around Skyrim or Oblivion or whatever, where you do a special task for them and they give you a rare item or material in return. And I think that this kind of, is very similar, or will be very similar. So as you can see here, we just have a chart of the manufacturer alignments. So take a look at your ships, come over here, kind of see where you lie here. But super cool stuff. And as this is released and we dissect it a little bit more, guys, it's really kind of will play into what you buy depending on what deck or player you are. So in some ways, I wish we had this before the sale, but I get not putting it before the sale because maybe only certain ships would sell out versus, releasing ships, some basic information about them, let people buy it. But I think in the GAO 2, later this year, I think there might be more targeted ship purchases based off of what we know here. So guys, let me know what you think of this article. And like I said, put in the description below what faction you chose and maybe what ship you bought. Did they align? Did they end up working well together? So anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you guys next time. Hit that like button for me. Subscribe if this is your first time here. And I'll see you guys next time for more Star Atlas videos. Peace, guys.